Are you looking for a way to scale your short-term rental business and buy more properties? Well, co-hosting might be the right fit for you. Welcome to the Cohost Coach podcast with Joe Roney. This episode of the Cohost Coach is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents. If you're looking to buy a short-term rental, then contact the STR Savvy Agent team at savvy.realty.
Welcome to today's episode of the Cohost Coach, the podcast that's dedicated to helping you become the best co-host you can be. I am your host, Joe Roney, and today we are dedicating this podcast into teaching you how to become a super co-host in today's short-term rental market. First things first, let's talk about what kind of co-host you are and what kind of co-host do you aspire to be. Do you want to blend in with the crowd? Or do you want to stand out and become a super co-host with top-performing properties? The short-term rental game has really changed over the last few years, as everyone knows. And in many markets this year, revenue is down anywhere from 10 to 14% in some of the high-level vacation rental markets. So if you want to go in and be a co-host and be successful, you not only have to level up your game, but you have to level up the property's game as well. There are various reasons for the decline. Everyone talks about saturation, right? And saturation is true. And in some markets, it's just completely saturated. And in some markets, it's just saturated down to the bedroom count, where maybe a 2 or a 3 bedroom isn't very good, but a 4 bedroom or a 6 bedroom or even a 1 bedroom might be the property that really knocks it out of the park. Another thing that's really making properties go down is owners are not updating their properties. A lot of owners have had the same decor for many, many years and haven't made any updates or changes. A lot of properties also have a lack of professional photography. They'll go in with their iPhone or their flip phone or whatever it is they have, and they'll do what they can and try to make that property look really good in those photos. But it's such a difference when you can have a professional come in and capture the right shots with the right views to make that property a super property. And finally, there are a lot of property managers that just set it and forget it. They'll come in and they'll take those pro photos and they'll set up the listing and they'll set up the pricing, and it'll just stay that way year round. And no changes are made, which buries it into the search algorithms and never gets any bookings. So many, many reasons why short-term rentals are down overall, where the top properties, many of them are seeing an increase this year in revenue year to date over last year. Back to what kind of co-host you want to be. There are many co-hosts that decide they want to have 20, 30, 50 properties or more, and that is fine. There are some very successful co-hosts that do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people want to do similar to what we do and have the least amount of properties that make the most amount of money. Having 30 to 50 properties, to me, kind of sounds like a little bit of a nightmare. That's a lot to manage, where you're going to have a lot of teams. You're going to have a lot of help to be able to manage all that. I like being in what I call the more boutique space, where you can actually manage properties daily and weekly to be extremely successful. If you do decide to be a co-host that has that many properties, you definitely got to have a plan on how you're going to increase the revenue for those owners. And some of that could be some of those little things that we just talked about, but some of the design techniques and things we're going to discuss today are things that can make a major impact that's going to help your owners make more money, which is going to help your co-hosting business make more money, which is a win for everyone. Helping an owner take a property to the next level is not only going to help them make more money, but it's going to help you build a long-lasting relationship for years to come for you to manage that property for them. If you want to level up and become the go-to co-host in your area, then you need to level up your service as well. When my wife and I decided to start co-hosting a couple of years ago, our goal was not to have any average properties. We wanted to take over properties that could potentially be super properties that we could take to the next level to perform at the highest level in the market. After all, it takes about the same amount of time to manage a property that does $25,000 a year as it does a property that does $125,000 a year. And if you're getting paid by the percentage of income, which one would you rather manage? The first thing you really need to do before getting into co-hosting is evaluate the properties that you want to co-host. I actually recommend underwriting a full pro forma, just like you would do if you were buying the property. This is going to put yourself in a position that when you do talk to the owners and meet the owners of these properties, you already know a little bit about the property that you're going to manage. The previous rental history is helpful, but what's more important is really understanding the competition, what kind of amenities they have, what kind of views they have compared to yours, and what things that they have to offer. Do they have professional photos? Analyze what's working for them in that market for the really successful properties, and what are the things that are a challenge to the property that you might be co-hosting that you would have to improve on to take it to that next level. The very, very first property that my wife and I took over definitely had a lot of updating. In fact, it had been over 10 years since any interior updates had been done. And the owners didn't have a very large budget, and that was fine. So we took what we could and tried to level up the property the best that we could. And I'm excited to say that in 1 year, that property increased their revenue by over $20,000. That is a almost 35% increase in revenue for one property just by doing some design changes, getting some professional photography, and having us co-host the property for them and put a daily emphasis. Now, once you've evaluated the property, you need a solid plan on what you're going to do. Not everyone is an interior designer, and you don't always have to be, but there are typically some interior updates that need to be done, and you may find a property owner that would be open to hiring a full interior designer to do a complete rehab of the property on the inside. In fact, if they want to take it to the next level, that is always a great idea to do. Sometimes it might just need to go in and put some new paint and some accent walls, might just need to change out the bedding. One of the things that we do in all of our properties, we make sure that every king and queen size bed have 4 pillows. It drives me insane when I go to an Airbnb to stay in it, or even a hotel, and there's 2 pillows on a king or queen bed, one for my wife, one for me, and that's it. And they're typically flat or they're hard, and I do not sleep really well. I want to make sure that every single person that stays in one of our properties, whether we own it or co-host, has the luxury and has multiple options of those pillows. And sometimes it could be decorative elements, throw blankets, decorative pillows, putting those lamps on the side. All those little things add up to make the property stand out. And in many markets, the wife or mom in the family is the one that's actually doing the booking. So you want to be able to cater to whoever is that booker. Who's the person that's actually booking your property? And that's the kind of person that you want to cater to make sure when they see it, they see a property or a bed that they want to sleep in, that they want to lie in. Amenities are a big part of being able to have a super property and helping you become a super co-host, right? So you want to be able to make sure that the property is offering the amenities that are at or above what the standard is in the area. You know, a lot of times in most beach markets, a pool is going to be one of the best amenities, but you can't always do that, right? Views, you're not going to be able to change the location of the property, so you need to look at that as well. But what amenities can you offer or change, whether it be adding a game room area, making sure that there's a beach wagon and beach chairs to be able to take down to the beach? If there's a fire pit, do you offer firewood? Do you have a grill, and do you offer a gas grill or provide the charcoal? All these types of things can be luxuries that help you get more bookings, more 5-star reviews, which helps your owner make more money and your property be more successful. So you got to really look at the amenities that's already being offered and what is your competition doing that you can level up and make sure that you're doing better than they are. So 2 of the biggest factors that can make you a super co-host over a traditional property manager or regular host is going to be marketing and revenue management. What do I mean by marketing? It's one thing to do daily listing optimization and make sure you're top of the search results, and that is crucial. That is very, very huge, and you definitely need to do that. However, there's a lot of things that you also can do to get more eyes on your properties to be able to level them up and get them to make more money and perform better. Facebook ads, targeted Facebook ads, and it's something that we talk about in our mastermind group a lot, is how do you run a targeted Facebook ad to be able to drive traffic the way you want it to where you want it? A lot of people will just go on Facebook and boost a post, or they'll just throw a Facebook ad out there and spend $10 a day or $20 a day, but they don't target their audience. They don't target the people that are actually going to click, and they're not looking at their results. So Facebook ads can be a very, very huge thing to drive more traffic to your properties, and it's something that your competition is not doing. The big property managers are not running Facebook ads directly to a property, which is how you are standing yourself out apart from the other property managers. Another thing you can do is email marketing. And I will tell you, this is basics 101 is email marketing. Every property manager in the industry has an email marketing campaign. I still get emails from a property management company of an Airbnb that I stayed at 3 years ago about every 4 to 6 weeks. They are staying on top of it. They want me. Now, they are not email specific to that particular property. They just want me to come back and rent with them and their property management company. So, but they're really good at this, and they collect the emails in the database when you book, and then they're using that to retarget to get you to keep coming back. And one of the things that I know in the United States is most Americans like to go to the same place over and over and over. So if you're not collecting emails to market them to come back to your property, you're missing out, and they're going to book somewhere else instead. One of the things that we also do is utilize buy-sell trade groups and target specific events and hyperlocal events for those Facebook groups. Try to put the information about our properties in those Facebook groups, in those buy-sell trades. Make sure you know where your guests are coming from, because if you're doing a Facebook group or a buy-sell trade group in a city or a state that doesn't even visit your location, it's really not a good idea. So you want to go to Google and really find out exactly where your avatar is coming from and where they're traveling from, so you can actually target them and get them to see your property on those Facebook groups. We talked a little about daily listing optimization, which obviously is very crucial, but one of the biggest things that we do with our properties is build every single property its own landing page, its own direct booking website. And if you think about most property management companies, they have XYZ property management company, and you go to that website, and that website is going to, have all of their different properties on it and not necessarily this owner's property. So being able to create a direct booking website for the owner on their individual property and then running ads to that individual property is going to make you stand out and make them be really happy with everything that you're trying to do to book their house. And then we also add QR codes inside the house with our direct booking website, with our QR code for our digital guidebook. All of these things lead back to the direct booking website, which also helps us collect more emails, collect more data to keep those guests coming back year after year after year. One of the things you don't want to do is set up unrealistic expectations. When you take over a property that you're co-hosting, it's really easy, and this even happens when you're buying your first property. You overestimate your possibilities of what the revenue can be. And it takes a little bit of time for you to actually get the revenue that you need. There are some properties that right out of the gate, yes, they are going to knock it out of the park and they're going to hit those revenue goals. But you also need to be realistic and say, okay, year one, it's going to take a little bit of time to build up the database and build up the reviews and get it to where you want it to be. And then year two, you're hoping to get to that 5, 10, 15% increase and just keep building on top of that. Now, one of the things that property managers do fairly well is ongoing maintenance. And a lot of co-hosts that I've talked to in the industry, they say, well, I'm just a co-host. I'm not responsible for that. Guess what? Most owners want to be hands-off. Most owners just want everything to be handled for them. If they didn't, they would host it themselves. So when you become a co-host of a property, you are now the full property manager in a way, and you do need to help them handle all of those things. So we have a maintenance program that we have for all of our properties. We have a maintenance person that goes into each property and changes air filters and light bulbs and batteries and checks, door handles to make sure they're not loose and cabinet handles. All these little things, especially during the busy season, are really, really important. And if you don't have them on your list to do those tasks, you're going to miss out, and you're going to get that call at 9 o'clock at night that an air conditioner isn't working right because the filter is clogged. And there's a lot of things that you can do to make this easier using a task resource like Monday.com or Turno, or there's a few different resources out there that you can use to stay on task. But you need to understand that monthly maintenance is very crucial in these properties, even if you're managing from afar and you're not the one there doing it yourself, which is honestly most of the time. I like to tell the owners the same thing. The actual person who owns the property management company isn't the person going into the property to do maintenance. Same thing for our company. I'm not the one doing the maintenance. I do have a maintenance man that's taking care of that, but it's still important for us to take care of that for our customer. One of the things you definitely want to get in place to be a super co-host up front is having your systems in place and having your communication in place and who is going to handle what. We do, and actually I personally do, 99.9% of all of the guest communication with everything. However, we do use a property management system that does automate a lot of things. So we have certain messages that are going out before the guest arrives, the day before arrival, the day after arrival, during the stay, and after the arrival. And all that stuff is set up ahead of time, and that's what helps us save a little bit of our own time, so we're not managing every single thing for every single day. You got to have those automations set up, and you can do that in most property management systems. You can actually do that directly in the app itself, but if you're going to become a co-host and have multiple properties, it's a great idea to pick a property management system that's going to work for you. I personally like Hospitable and OwnerRes Combo. I know Hostfully and Guesty, and there's so many other ones that could be great options. Just research them, know which one that's going to work for you, and understand how you're going to be able to utilize it. But having that streamlined communication up front before you get going is really important. More than likely, you already have the setup in your own property if you're already owning your own. But if you're new to co-hosting and getting into it, this is something that you definitely want to step into and make sure you understand fully. You definitely also want to have SOP, standard operating procedure documents for your properties. You need to have a cheat sheet with you. You know, when you get to 6, 7, 8, 10 properties and someone calls you and says, hey, what's the Wi-Fi password? Or, hey, the breaker box, there's a light off. You need to know where that breaker box is. You need to know where, what the Wi-Fi password is. You need to know these things. And you may not be able to remember them on hand. I have a little cheat sheet I keep in my wallet, and I have some on my phone, and it's super easy. If I have any questions, I can pull it out. I have all the information that I need with me, and we can take care of it. If you hire a virtual assistant, obviously this is a good place to have that. That virtual assistant will also be able to help you if they're involved in your guest communication, and be able to answer questions and solve problems on the fly. Most of the time, these problems come when you're out and about in your day with your family, or maybe you're at work, whatever it may be, but you need to be able to handle these problems pretty quickly. So those are some of the things that are going to make you a super host. The design is going to be one of the biggest things that you can do. Most of these properties are not having that super property design, and they've got to be leveled up. So when you're taking over a property and you want to take that property to the next level, you're going to set those realistic expectations for that owner of the property. And as you set up those realistic expectations, you can show them the different ways that they can make more money by investing in the property. And I'll give for instance, we took over a property earlier this year, and the owners invested pretty close to $15,000 or $20,000 in that property. And we did a full rehab. We changed out some furniture. We did some wallpaper. We added coffee bar. We did a lot of cleanup and just wanted to make that property stand out. And this property was already previously booked by the previous property manager for the summer at about $900 a night, jam-packed booked for the whole summer. When we took over, they ended up canceling all of those bookings, and we had to start fresh with a bare calendar. And we averaged about $1,250 a night for those same dates for the whole summer, and we increased their revenue by almost the entire $20,000 that they invested into the property from the get-go. That is 100% cash-on-cash return Not even in a year, we're talking in about 4.5 months. So when you're talking to an owner about investing in their property and showing them truly how much more money they could generate and make by investing in that property, that's a great way to talk to them about how much money they're getting in return. They could take that $20,000 and put it in the market and get a 5 or 8 or maybe even really good in the stock market and get a 10% return. But if they invest back into their property and you can increase their revenue and they could get a 100% return on their investment, there is nothing better. Even if it's a 50% return on their investment and they get half of that money back in the first year and half back in the next year, that's still better than taking that money and putting it in something else. And it's going to help their property stand out, make more money, and be more successful. Well, there you have it. That is your comprehensive guide on what it takes to be a super co-host. I really appreciate you joining me today. If you want to stand out in this competitive market, you need to bring your A game. That is the bottom line. You got to bring your A game. You've got to update the decor. You got to develop a robust marketing plan, and you got to excel at revenue management. If you do not understand revenue management, there are some really great revenue managers out there that can do this for you for a very, very low cost. If you do understand revenue management and you understand dynamic pricing and how to use those tools and how to look at the hyper-local events in the area like a motorcycle rally or concerts, whatever it may be, and you understand how to use seasonal pricing, then by all means, handle your own revenue management. We do handle all of our own revenue management. I will tell you it's probably one of the most time-consuming parts of co-hosting is making sure that we're always following up on our competitors, we're always following up on what's happening in the market, and we want to make sure that we're getting the maximum amount of ADR, average daily rate, for the properties for the season that it's in. So if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, leave us a review. I would really, really appreciate it. You can visit us at thecohostcoach.com and would love to hear from you. And thank you for joining us on another episode of The Cohost Coach.